The future of Formula 1 games could be about to change. Let's get into it and let's break it down. Now this video is being recycled from a Spanish YouTuber called Sevi87. He gave me permission to make this video, so link down below to his channel, go check him out. Now in this video we are going to use VG247 as the article source. There's multiple other ones out there with pretty much the exact same interview, but for the sake of the video, this is my source. Now essentially, this is an interview with one of the Codemasters / EA employees who worked on the EA Sports WRC game which recently released. Why does WRC use Unreal Engine and not Frostbite, and also why it's only current gen, aka new gen? So basically the game is not available on PS4, it's not available on the old Xbox, it's basically PS5, Xbox Series XS. Now before even going into the article, this gives you a bit of an idea as to what is next on the radar. So for a long time now, F1 has been in a massive need of an overhaul in terms of the engine. There's so many things wrong with the game, with all the bugs and things that basically reoccur from past games, because simply put, the game is recycled every year. They kind of change obviously the core elements in the game, but the framework is still the same, and that stuff gets reused year after year after year. Hence why if you go on PC, on the game files you can see, Lotus instead of Alpine as the name of the folder where the team is located, Force India instead of Aston Martin, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot going on there. So with that in mind, let's get into it. So after 16 years on Ego Engine, which of course F1 has run on also for a long time, Codemasters is developing EA WRC using Unreal Engine 5 and will only release on the next gen consoles, which is massive. For F1 to take the next step, it has to drop the old generation consoles, because basically when you make a game, if you have it compatible with the old hardware, you have to basically limit or cap yourself in terms of what's possible, because you're not maximizing the performance of the new consoles. You're basically capped by the old ones, and you have to make a game that works across all of them for crossplay reasons. So essentially you're nerfing the true potential of what the game could be. It says, despite Codemasters' acquisition by Electronic Arts in 2021, it will not use the Frostbite engine for WRC, even though many other EA studios use Frostbite exclusively, such as FIFA or Battlefield. Now the simple version why they use Unreal Engine is because the physics of the games are easier to port over from Ego into Unreal rather than into Frostbite, so it makes it easier for them as an overall job. Now this interview is with Ross Gowing, who is Codemasters' Senior Creative Director, so that gives you a bit of an idea of what the person involved has as a job role. Now he basically states, that they did everything they could with Ego Engine in the past to kind of extract everything out of it, but they had to move on. As you can see here, a big evaluation took place on which engine we should move to, and it was actually pre-EA that we made the decision to change to Unreal instead of Frostbite. So that decision was made quite a while ago, to be fair, if that's the case. And this also makes for really interesting information. So our biggest hurdle to overcome was how to get the handling to be the Codemasters handling, quote marks, and that wasn't something Unreal had out of the box, but it turned out we could work with them to bring our own handling across. So in the end, basically, they made it easier for them to do so, and that is going to help kind of bridge the gap across different engines and possibly console generations, and just the general step into next gen gaming. Now to be fair, the rest of the paragraph is pretty self-explanatory, essentially saying that Unreal did whatever Codemasters EA said, and if they had to do X, Y, Z to get the port completed, they would do it, and basically made the life really easy in terms of switching from one engine to another. It goes on to say the Ego engine was first used in 2007 with Colin McRae on PS3, and basically it's made its way through the years, and yeah, we've basically seen multiple generations of consoles, F1 games, you name it, we've had it for a long time. And now we go into the point that I mentioned before about essentially you're capping yourself to a limit. However, the choice to leave Xbox One and PS4 behind wasn't solely driven by the engine swap, but the trend for more expansive games with greater visual fidelity in general. So, like I said, if you want a game that just basically has more depth, more features, more game modes, more, just better look graphics, more realistic cutscenes, better looking characters, better audio quality, all of this stuff, you have to basically embrace the next generation of console. Now in the case of WRC, for context, it says releasing on current gen hardware wasn't a restriction of Unreal Engine at all. It was more something that we wanted to push when we were doing the over 35km stages, which I'll stop there for a second. They wanted to get realistic, super long rally stages in the game, which is understandable because again, that is one part of the game that adds real depth. In the case of the F1 game, that could be essentially a much deeper career mode, a deeper breaking point, a more expansive online, and he summarizes it beautifully in a line. So to give the team the biggest quality remit possible, we focused on current gen only. Simple as that. Now the article is finished and we're going to basically now carry this over into F1. So I thought F1 23 genuinely would be the first game to jump onto next gen or current gen, but it wasn't the case. Now this article basically confirms that any games under the EA Co-Masters umbrella are pretty much going to be moved onto next gen consoles only starting now. EA WRC was the first game to do so, and I'm assuming others are going to follow, because this is basically telling us, you know, under the hood, that's what's going to happen. So with that in mind, I think F1 24, 5, 6 and so on until the next generation of consoles come out, the next era of F1 games is going to be on next gen software only, so PS5, Xbox Series X, S, and also it's going to be running under the Unreal 5 engine. So it's time to move on, guys. A new era is upon us. Now a big reason why the F1 game have not moved onto next gen earlier is because, of course, there was a massive shortage of stock for so long, you know, of PS5s especially, and also Xboxes, in terms of they were producing them but they were getting sold out straight away. So essentially, you know, you want to make that switch as a game, as a brand, once you have a majority player base on that next gen software. And for a long time, a lot of people, because they haven't been able to get the new software, have been basically stuck on the old, you know, stuff for a long time. But it feels like now most people have the next gen consoles. In the case of F1, I mentioned it before, but there's things on the game that have been the same for a long time. Now, if this is the plan, and let's say they had some ideas but they couldn't deliver them because of they were maxing out the old software and had to basically move on to the new consoles, I'll cut them some slack and basically apologize if we get some new features next year. If we get a new engine next year, we get a whole leap onto the next gen consoles and, you know, the new game engine, and we get the exact same My Team, that is simply unacceptable. We need to see development now. Moving on to the next step, I've been very complacent, very, you know, accepting of the situation, but time has run out. So it's time to see a leap onto next gen, a new engine, and a new era for Formula 1 games. So guys, I'm going to leave it there. Like the video, comment down below your thoughts on this one as well. I'm keen to see what you guys have to say, but this does seem like we are likely going to be seeing the end of the Ego engine and the old gen hardware, and we're going to move on to next gen consoles and a new engine once and for all, finally, after years of asking. So I'm very excited. Guys, subscribe to the channel. Very close now to 100k subs. Very, very close indeed. Less than 2.5 away. Please subscribe. And yeah, as always, a shout out to the channel members for supporting all the content I make and the channel in general. Finally, check out the 2 videos on screen. And yeah, guys, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.